Growing up, I had dreams and aspirations, but always felt like the kid that didn't fit in. For the most part, I wasn't a bad kid, but when I made the transition into adulthood, I turned to the streets for guidance. This led to getting locked up in juvenile hall, doing time in CYA, and eventually a 120-month sentence in federal prison. I had a lot of time to think and reflect during my federal sentence, so I share with you what I learned, hoping I can positively influence someone else's life with Prison Talk. I started Fresh Out, which is a popular YouTube channel. We got a little over 500,000 subs, about 300 million views as of date. And I started the channel because of a situation I went through in the life experience. I did almost a decade in federal prison, bank robbery, watching Heat too many times. But anyways, got caught up. And while I was in prison, I had a vision, and it was really a time for me to figure out where I want to go in my life. And prior to going to the feds, I had been to juvenile hall, I had been to California Youth Authority, but it wasn't like I was one of those kids who was always in trouble. I was a straight A student. Up until my junior year of high school, I maybe got 2 C's on my report cards growing up. And I was a skateboarder, BMXer. Even before I got in trouble the first time, I was designing shoes and trying to get into video games and stuff like that when they had Coleco and Intellivision. And back then, before I even, like I said, had a thought of doing any type of criminal activity, I wrote Intellivision, and I designed a video game, and it was like kind of rudimentary. I drew some different pictures and tried to send it in to them thinking maybe I can be a video game designer. This is before they had coding classes and all this different stuff. And then when that didn't work, I tried to write Nike and Adidas, hopefully that I can be a shoe designer, because I was into basketball, skateboarding, we wear Jordans, and just being in that whole genre, I was really into shoes. So I designed this shoe back in 1987. I was 14. And I didn't have anybody in my family who was business orientated. No one in my family had ever ran their own business. Everybody was worker bees. So I wanted to break out of that mold, and I always felt like I didn't fit in. So I was always trying to do these other things. Like I said, skateboarding, I used to wear zebra striped pants to school, cut off t-shirts. I was always like doing my own thing. So I tried this, and Nike actually sent me an NDA. I sent them the shoe drawings. And then, of course, they said at the time they weren't accepting any submissions, blah, blah, blah. And so from that, I came up with FEDU, and I was going to try to start my own clothing line, which is for everyday use. And this was before FUBU. So I did this in 87. FUBU came out in 91. But like I said, I didn't have any inclination of what. I was just trying stuff. I would watch TV, look in a magazine, and I would just come up with something. And I tell my mom, she's like, oh, it sounds good, but, you had to go to, like, downtown to go get a business license. You had to drive across town to find an embroiderer, drive over here to find a shirt company, and it was just a lot of stuff, and it was time consuming, and then it was like we were just trying to learn through my experience. So it was kind of it was kind of deterring. You kind of started going, and then you felt like, man, maybe I can't do this, and so I fell into selling drugs. And so a lot of drug dealers in my neighborhood, they were the guys who were with the role models, with the nice cars and the Jerry curls and all this stuff. So I got involved in that and got caught up at 15, and I went to juvenile hall. And in juvenile hall, even then, I seen that I was different. Most of these guys they couldn't do simple math. And I was already as a sophomore, I was doing, I think, trigonometry, and I was in Spanish, and I was doing all this stuff. And so I was sitting here, I'm like, man, what am I doing? But I didn't have anybody mentoring me, so I still continued to try to find my path, but I was still caught up with that mentality. So after that, got caught up again. After graduating, Sacramento's a pretty wild place, getting shot at, all kind of just gang stuff and neighborhood. Went to CYA, and in there, I was from 18 to 21, so I'm still in this age bracket where I didn't really have any identity, and I'm just trying to figure out where do I fit in and what is my future. And so getting out of that situation, I went back to college for a little while, Santa Rosa Junior College. Didn't really know what I wanted to do, and so once again, I met in school, I still had that mentality, found the weed hookup, started selling weed, got caught up, started doing that for a while, then got into some other stuff, and eventually led up to the bank robbery. So the bank robbery, I was in jail from 2000 to 2008, had 120 months, but while I was in there, I said, I actually, when I got arrested, it was in Ventura County, high-speed chase, helicopters, 20-something cops, spike strip, it was on the news. And when I got arrested on the beach, I mean, they literally, high-speed chase, I jumped over the center divider, ran across 4 lanes of traffic, was trying to run around and hide, got arrested on the beach. I had an epiphany like, man, this is it, I'm done, everybody's like, hey man, this was a good day, well, we had a little fun today, a little action, all right, they're laughing. And I'm like, man, and I seen the ocean, and that was the last time I seen the ocean for the next 8.5, 9 years. And so while I was in prison, the first thing I did was the guys I did the bank robbery with, I distanced myself from them. I started reading about the law, started studying, I started really trying to figure out purpose in life and what have I been doing? Why did I even entertain something like that? And while I was in there, I learned about the law, ended up knocking 2 years off my sentence because they were trying to give me 12 years. I ended up getting 10 years, and during my journey, I met a couple guys at USP Lompoc who mentored me. One guy was doing 30 years, and he taught me about the law. Had another guy who was doing 22 years. He taught me more about myself, being a person, spirituality, and I combined both of those, and then I started a study group. And it's pretty much unheard of in prison to have mixed races. Like, you don't really have black guys hanging out with Mexican guys or white guys or guys from different states. And in the Feds, it's not just California, it's people from all over the country. So I was in there with guys from Colombia, guys from Mexico, Puerto Rican, Latin Kings, vice lords, just guys from all over the country. And one of the things that actually helped me, because I was somewhat educated and I can put things together, I started doing law. So I started studying law, and once I learned about the law, I'm like, it gave me purpose, and I would help people. So this guy was dealing with like maybe child custody situation, or a guy here was doing a divorce proceeding, and so that was my hustle, and I built a team. So I had a Mexican guy, a guy from Belize, a guy from Korea, and I was able to kind of get around the racial situation because I was helping people. So by helping people, I was looked at differently, but at the same time, a lot of guys didn't like me, and most of the guys didn't like me were people that looked like me for whatever reason, because the way I talk, the way I carry myself, and guys in prison have a tendency to test you if they think you're soft. So in one situation, I always had a book bag, which was a laundry bag full of books. In the morning, I would go and I would work out and do my workout. Then after lunch, I would go to a law library for the next 3-4 hours, and then I would go again after dinner. So a guy, he seen me with a book bag. I'm always having a book bag, and this guy, he was straight the epitome of penitentiary. He walked the yard, had a knife. These guys, they act like they were back on the block, and that's what they did every day. Every day I did my law library thing. So he seen me one day, and he's like, man, what are you doing, man? Why are you always going to a law library? I said, I'm trying to figure out if there's a way out early. And he's like, did you do it? Did you commit a crime? I'm like, yeah. I said, I did a bank robbery. He's like, did you have a note, or did you have a gun? I said, I had a gun. He said, oh, okay. He's like, how much time you doing? I said, don't worry about it. He said, man, why don't you just do your time? I said, man, why don't you do your time? And so he looked at me, and I looked at this dude, and I'm like, damn, this dude's gonna be problems. And he runs with a group of guys. So I said, okay, I know how to deal with him. So the next time I seen him, I gave him an envelope. And in the envelope, there was a girly book in there. So when he got the book, next thing he seen me, he's like, hey, man, good looking, all right, Big Herc, you cool, man, you cool. So I had to use a Jedi mind trick tactic to diffuse a potential situation, because me being a big guy, if I was any smaller in the way I carried myself, a lot of people assumed that I thought I was better than them, so I would have had a lot of problems. But because I worked out, was in great shape, carried myself well, and I played mental chess with these guys, I was able to avoid a lot of situations. And moving forward, I ended up meeting guys that were on the same path, where it's in prison predominantly, the majority is just a lot of negativity. But you do have a handful of people who go to a law library, which if you're in a law library, you're trying to get out early, or you're trying to learn something, that we have a common interest. So I ended up hooking up with guys. Some guys were writing, working on their cases, other guys writing books, some guys writing scripts. some guys teaching the Fibonacci on how to read Japanese candlesticks in the stock market. Some guys is teaching real estate, other guys teaching LLCs. And so I got around this group of people and started learning. And I was like, oh, man, when I get out, what am I gonna do? So I started thinking, and I'm like, I don't wanna work for anybody. I never went to work for anybody to begin with. So I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna create a show, and I'm gonna create this show where I show guys after they get out of prison what they can accomplish, what they've done, which is not glorifying prison or criminal activity. And so I came up with Fresh Out while I was walking the track. And so I wrote down my ideas. I've had like these journals, I have all these notes. And eventually, when I got out, I met my partner, Big Ant, and it was after I kind of, took a couple years, but I'm like, you know what, I got an idea, and I told him, and we didn't know what we were doing. We just had an idea. My neighbor, I seen him always with camera equipment, so I'm like, hey man, you film? He's like, yeah. I hit him up, and we filmed our first episode in 2013. And so that's how I started my first big venture when I got out, before I actually knew what I was gonna morph into. And here it is, 8 years later, 9 years later, we have Fresh Out, and we have everything from, we've done shoes, we've done protein powder, we got pre-workout, all these different things, but I'm Big Herc, and I have over a decade of experience in the prison system. Yeah, I've done a lot of time, made a lot of stupid mistakes, but that's why I'm here with you today, educating you on the Mastermind program by Fresh Out. See, they don't give you a manual when you go to jail on how to survive. They don't tell you how to go take a shower, where to sit at when you go to chow, what to do when you have mail call, how to handle your commissary. So we cover that and a multitude of other topics that are very important, because if you do the wrong thing, you can get your damn wig split. We have over 100 million views as of date on our YouTube channel, but we've put and condensed all this knowledge into this Mastermind program so that you can provide your client with a winning chance. Do yourself a favor and your client a favor, and sign them up for our program, so they don't have to get their wig split and they can make it out alive. I'm Big Herc, and I have over a decade of experience in the prison system. Yeah, I've done a lot of time, made a lot of stupid mistakes, but that's why I'm here with you today, educating you on the Mastermind program by Fresh Out. See, they don't give you a manual when you go to jail on how to survive. They don't tell you how to go take a shower, where to sit at when you go to chow, what to do when you have mail call, how to handle your commissary. So we cover that and a multitude of other topics that are very important, because if you do the wrong thing, you can get your damn wig split. We have over 100 million views as of date on our YouTube channel, but we've put and condensed all this knowledge into this Mastermind program so that you can provide your client with a winning chance. Do yourself a favor and your client a favor, and sign them up for our program, so they don't have to get their wig split and they can make it out alive.